Hello and welcome, this is Mr. Siege, and in today's video, obviously I want to talk about inscriptions, specifically in V formation, which obviously you can set up your tower and run engineering commanders that fire at range. Now, obviously there's legendary inscriptions, rare inscriptions, normal inscriptions, and I'm going to show you which are the best ones to either choose or avoid, basically. Some of these may be a surprise. I would even avoid some legendary inscriptions, and even a rare inscription I think is pretty pointless that is available. So listen to the video, check it out, hope you enjoy. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's go. So let's get to it, guys. Obviously, I've got a load of decent inscriptions on my account now. I've been focusing V formation only. I do not open chests for any other formation in the game other than V formation. So I get the better, a better chance of getting decent stats and inscriptions. And I'm going to run through every single one. Some of them briefly, and then some of them a bit more detail. So let's go inside this section here and check them out. I'll scroll down to the V formation armaments, and then obviously we have a list for each armament you can require here with all the inscriptions available. So first up we have Sharpshooter. The wielder's troop gains a 5% boost to ranged normal damage dealt. Now that's great. Already that is equal to a greatest glory. Okay, so if you've got your ranged commanders which have smite damage, that's fantastic. And whenever their troop launches a ranged basic attack, it has a 10% chance to spend 50 rage, not amazing, to increase the damage of the attack by 50%, cooldown 5 seconds. So that is just the basic attack gets a 50% damage increase, which is okay, but then you're using rage as well. But all in all, I think Sharpshooters are a fantastic inscription. Obviously, that rage cost will slow down the active skill cycle sometimes, but Margaret and Baba at the moment have a decent amount of rage regeneration, so not too fussed about that, to be honest with you. Now, just to make you aware again, a boost to normal damage will increase all your basic attacks. That's your attack plus counter attack, which makes up a normal attack, and it will increase smite damage. It won't increase skill damage. Now, I just want to show you here, attacking this barbarian, that these white numbers are your normal attacks. Now, normal attacks are split and made up from attack plus counter-attack, okay? So counter-attack isn't the full white number. It's a section of that, a certain amount of that. I don't know how much, maybe it's half and half. I guess that depends on your commanders, maybe. But obviously, these certain inscriptions are important to be aware of what they're actually increasing and how much that affects your results in the field. So next, we're going to get on to full draw. This is whenever the wielder's troop launches a ranged basic attack. Again, it has a 10% chance to consume 50 rage to gain 25% bonus to ranged normal damage dealt for 2 seconds with a cooldown of 5 seconds. 25% bonus to ranged normal damage is huge. I know it only lasts for 2 seconds, but that could actually land on an active skill as well. And there's a cooldown of 5 seconds, but sort of one in 10 turns you could end up with that, which is quite nice. I definitely would approve of this inscription over many others. Next up, we have all the basic stat increases: a 3.5% attack, defense, health. Now, these are all absolutely fine for ranged march, especially if you've got a double inscription again. Stats you can never go wrong with, but there is still better inscriptions available. And obviously march speed, which it really isn't that important. I would not waste an inscription slot unless you've got like a double inscription with that swift on. And payback, which is just completely pointless. Onslaught, the wielder's troop deals 1.5% more normal damage of all types. So that's really nice. So that will increase the attack, counter attack, and smite damage, which is really good. And then this one does 2.5% more counter damage of all types. Remember, that's half the normal attacks. So that's kind of equivalent to like 1.25% normal damage bonus, being as it's half your normal attack. But compare it to Delane's Amulet, which takes 5% less counter damage of all types. It's half this epic accessory's stats, although that's takes less counterattack, which is compared to the inscription, which is deals more counterattack. I think I'd rather deal more counterattack than take less counterattack, because then you're gonna harm more troops rather than probably save a few more troops in your hospital. And for me, it's all about doing more kills and doing more damage. And comparing this to the legendary accessory Vengeance, it's quite a bit off that, to be honest. We've already seen a legendary inscription Sharpshooter deals 5% more ranged normal damage, which is equal to the Greatest Glory legendary accessory. So that's way up there. It's a massive inscription for V formation, especially with our Smite Commander ones. Now this is Iron Wall. The wielder's troop takes 1.5% less normal damage of all types. Again, that's really good. I'd rather deal more normal damage, but taking less is also fine. Now this Bellicose I think is fantastic. Whenever the wielder's troop launches any type of basic attack, there's a 10% chance to gain 5% bonus to damage dealt for 3 seconds. That's huge. That could easily land on an active skill. And it's all damage, so that affects everything. Normal damage, skill damage, smite damage. Fantastic inscription, and you're going to be getting that for 3 seconds. That's a good amount of time. Definitely worth respinning for seed stats if you have this inscription. It's definitely one of the best. It could even be better than the rare inscription potentially. Next up, we have pulverized. Whenever the wielder's troop launches any type of basic attack, it has a 10% chance to gain 20% bonus to all types of normal damage dealt for 1 second. Cooldown 5 seconds. That's very similar to the rare inscription full draw we've just looked at. It's good. It's very, very good, but it only lasts for 1 second, so it probably won't land on your direct damage factor, your skill damage, or your smite damage. Obviously, it will only affect your smite damage anyway. Then we've got Breaker. Whenever the wielder's troop launches any type of basic attack, it has a 10% chance to reduce the target's defense by 15% for 3 seconds. Cooldown 5 seconds. That's very nice. That's kind of similar to actually what Garge Yamada's got in his 4th skill, which is 20%. And that's obviously when it's launched to smite damage or direct damage factor. And that's really nice because it also helps your ally troops because you're reducing the defense of your enemies. And for me, helping yourself plus all your allies and everyone fighting together with you, it's just a bonus. Next up, we have Combo. Whenever the wielder's troop uses an active skill, it gains 8% bonus to all types of skill damage dealt for 3 seconds, cooldown 5 seconds. Now, that's really nice, but obviously it won't help your smite damage commanders. So you could potentially use that on Margaret Babber, better at melee range, but obviously at your standard ranged tower range, you get your skill damage halved anyway. So you may as well class that as 4% skill damage at all times, which it's okay, but obviously I split my smite damage and skill damage commanders up. If you did get that, maybe you would potentially pair Margaret and Babu together. Now, next up we've got Ward. Whenever the wielder's troop uses an active skill, their troop takes 5% less damage for 3 seconds. I do like this inscription. I think you can actually buy this somewhere in, I think the KVK shop if you don't get an Autarch. And I've bought it before and it is very good. I would definitely recommend that. You're going to take less damage. You're going to take less in your hospital. It's a very, very good inscription. And I do recommend working on it if you have it and you've got nothing else worth working on. Then we've got Phalanx. And whenever the wielder uses an active skill again, their troop has a 30% chance to gain a shield. Direct damage factor 100 for 3 seconds. It's just not much. A 100 direct damage factor shield is just pants. Just avoid it. And we have Hurried. The wielder troop gains a 50% bonus to march speed for 10 seconds after leaving battle. It's okay. And again, if you had a double inscription with that on, I definitely would think it'd be worth having. Getting away from battle if you need to is very, very useful. So yeah, double inscription with that on I'd be very, very happy with, but I wouldn't work on it on its own. Then we have Tremors. Whenever the wielder's troop deals direct damage or ranged direct damage, it has a 30% chance to deal extra direct damage / ranged direct damage to the target. Damage factor 100. Okay, that's just not enough. It's going to make no difference at all. Not really worth working on. I actually think Calm's quite a decent inscription. Whenever the wielders troop deals any type of direct damage factor, it has 30% chance to gain 10% attack for 3 seconds. That's kind of useful. 30% chance is really nice, and we know the range commanders deal a lot of direct damage factors, not just on the active skill. So this could trigger pretty much every 5 seconds almost. For 3 seconds, it's quite good. Then we have Loosed. While in V formation, whenever the wielder's troop launches a ranged basic attack, has a 10% chance to deal extra range direct damage factor to target 200, cooldown 5 seconds. So it's okay. I mean, again, on a double inscription, just dealing a 200 direct damage factor every 5 seconds or so. Probably going to be more like 15 seconds on average with a 10% chance. So I wouldn't say it's fantastic. But it's one of those, if you're in battle a long time, it would add up. It could add up to a significant amount, potentially. Now, let's move over to the Imperial War Drum armament, and we have Drilled. The wielder's troop gains a 5% boost to range normal damage dealt. Again, really, really nice, as good as the Greatest Glory. When attacking from range, for every 20% units the target is lost, the wielder's troop gains 3% bonus to range normal damage dealt, up to a maximum of 12%. That, again, is absolutely fantastic, especially for your smite commanders. Drilled is a fantastic inscription. You want to get this one, guys. If you're using this on a smite commander, that's up to 12% all damage, because normal damage affects everything on a smite commander. It's so much better than the Greatest Glory accessory. And how much does that cost to craft? Next up, we've got the rare inscription Bloody Bolt. The wielder's troop gains a 2% boost to ranged normal damage dealt. While in ranged mode, their troop deals 5% more ranged normal damage to enemy troops with less than 50% units remaining. So it's a good first part of the inscription. 2% bonus to ranged normal damage dealt. Sound. While in ranged mode, their troop deals 5% more ranged normal damage to troops with less than 50% units. Yeah, I mean, they could have retreated, but 50% still, it's quite a decent, it's a high enough number. It's a good inscription nonetheless. And then we're just going through these normal things again. We've been through this before. Again, annexer, not really required. These are just names for the same things we've just been through on the other armament, just with literally a different name. But this one's good. Fearsome. The wielder troop deals 1% extra damage. So that's 1% all damage. That's very good. It's worth working on if you've got this inscription as well. No cooldown or other requirements either, which is good. Again, another 2.5% less counter damage of all types. And then we've got Requital. Whenever the wielder's troop is hit with any type of basic attack, has a 10% chance to deal additional damage to the attacker every second for 2 seconds. Damage factor 50, which is nothing at all. But you have to be receiving basic attacks for these. And you're only receiving basic attacks if you're being attacked at melee range. So that's, again, whenever the hit with a basic attack takes any type of skill damage, isn't important either, because you won't be taking any skill damage, or at least shouldn't be. I mean, also, how often are you being hit by other towers whilst being in tower mode? Not very often, although I do tend to go for people that are in towers. Whenever the wheeled troops takes any type of skill damage, again, pointless. You shouldn't be taking skill damage. Run off if you're in a bad situation, or if you just want to take a swarm and get back quicker, that's fine as well. Vengeful. Whenever the wielder's troop launches any type of basic attack, that's fine. It gains an extra 2 rage for every 10% of units it's lost, up to 10 rage. It's okay. Rage regeneration is all right, but we've got that on these commanders anyway, so it's not 100% necessary. Could be nice on a double inscription, of course. And then we've got patronage. Whenever the wielder's troop receives healing or a shield, it deals 2% extra damage for the next 3 seconds. That's nice. Our commanders do plenty of healing. You always see those green numbers popping up every now and then. So 2% extra damage for 3 seconds. Cooldown 5 seconds, that's fine. You're probably not going to heal every 5 seconds anyway. I think that's quite nice. Not so great if you haven't got Margaret expertise, but if you're running Garja, you should be fine. Then we've got Primed. The wielder's troop gains a 5% bonus to march people when that's over 50% troops remaining, not that important. Uplifting. Every 10 seconds after the wielder's troop enters a battle, it gains 1% boost to all types of normal damage dealt, up to 5%. So this could be good as long as you're staying in contact. Now, we know that when the range commanders kill a target, they lose their rage. So does that class as X in battle? Potentially. It may not work. Could be good in the right scenario, like an altar, as long as you can stay hitting enemies. Might be worth making sure you don't kill enemies and swap your targets before they die, potentially. Otherwise, you might struggle with that one. Spirited, the wielder's troop, deals 5% extra damage when it has over 70% rage. That's good, but it'll never work on your active skill. Basically, your rage has disappeared during your active skill, so you won't be able to get the extra damage then. So you've got kind of small window for it to actually work on that one. Still, I think it's quite good. Then finally on this armament, we've got Bluster, the last inscription. Whenever the wielder's troop is inflicted with a control effect, has a 10% chance of resisting the effect and dealing direct damage factor 3 nearby enemy troops. Damage factor 100. Damage dealt to each target is reduced by 50%. Yeah, the blah, 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 the usual. I mean, what if they're not in melee range? Does this not affect them? I'm not 100% sure about this. I don't think it's fantastic. I mean, you only get a control effect if you're in melee range anyway. So again, the chance of that is probably unlikely. So let's move on to the next armament, the Dragon's Standard. And we have Merciless, increases skill damage resistance of the wielder's troop by 5%. Pointless. You shouldn't have to take you shouldn't be taking skill damage. So this isn't a great part of a legendary inscription. Increases the attack of the wielder's siege units by 30% for 10 seconds after entering battle. So then after the 10 seconds, you're getting no buffs at all. Now, you've either got to get very lucky to acquire this inscription, or should I say unlucky, or you've got to spend your 8 inscription shards and buy it in this shop where the armament shop here. Don't waste 8 shards on this legendary inscription because it's pants. You're getting no buffs after 10 seconds of entering battle because you shouldn't be taking skill damage, and even that buff is just just an attack buff. You might not even get your active skill and barely make an impact at all anyway. Just don't get this inscription, guys. Get another one. Even if you're a siege main, even I won't get it. Probably one that Lilith should relook at. Just so expensive, it's so hard to get these inscription shards, and such a bad legendary inscription in my opinion. So moving on, we have the inscription Tempered. Now this is my first rare inscription in V formation, and again it's total trash. Increases the skill damage resistance of the wielder's troops by 4%. Well, I'm not taking skill damage in a tower firing at range, so why would I want my rare inscription? So it's so hard to receive to be that. Doesn't make sense. So it's just basically in the trash for now. I have locked it, but it's pointless. And again, going through all these, it's all the same sort of stuff we've been through before. 2.5% more skill damage there, though. 1% extra damage is good, like we said before. Obviously, the counter attack and stuff. Now we have Brave. While surrounded, the wielder's troop deals 5% more counter damage of all types. That's similar to Vengeance, I guess. So if you're getting swarmed, it's not amazing. You shouldn't be getting swarmed. If you do, you're dead anyway. It's not going to make much difference. Strategic, I think, could be good if you're in auto turret mode. Obviously, you're going to deal 2% to extra damage to surrounded troops. It's likely those troops are going to be surrounded if they're being attacked on the front line. Then we've got Desperado. The wielder's troop takes 2% less damage when it has under 50% units remaining. As a ranged tower, it's possible to stay on the field that long. If you've got this inscription, it's probably worth it, to be honest. Stay on the field a bit longer. I tend to stay until it gets down to about a quarter. Cohesive, the wielder's troop deals 2% extra damage when it has over 50% units remaining. That is very nice. So that's nicer than Desperado, to be honest. Most of the time you can have over 50% units remaining. If not, probably worth just going back. It's probably even better than than the legendary inscription Merciless, to be honest. I'd much rather have that. You pretty much 2% all damage at all times. And then yeah, below 50% you might be walking back. So yeah, Cohesive, I'd take over that legendary inscription. Pursuer, the wielder's troop deals 2% extra damage to troops with under 20% units remaining. Okay, they might not be on the field that long, to be honest. They shouldn't be anyway. Assertive is fantastic. The wielder's troop deals 2% more damage while on the map, which is pretty much always. You're not going to be defending a city, a stronghold, anything like that, really, or it's a good inscription, and there's no ties, no cooldown or anything. It's good. So then we've got Siege Weight. The wielder's troop deals 2% more damage when attacking a city. Not important. Sentries, the wielder's troop takes 2% less damage. Whilst Garrison, again, not important yet, but maybe it could be in the future then. Ballistics, whilst in V formation and in ranged mode, the wielder troop deals 3% more damage. This is a fantastic inscription. It's probably the best inscription on Dragon Standard. Better than Merciless, better than Tempered. Get Ballistics like I have, and make sure you get your good siege stats. It's the best one you can get on this at the moment, unless they change the rare and legendary inscriptions, but I can't see that happening, to be honest with you. Finally, we get onto the last armament, the Imperial Decree, and this legendary inscription, Astute, is great. The wielder's troop gains a 10% boost to ranged normal damage dealt. Fantastic. That's 10% on everything if you got your smite commanders. Really, really good inscription. It's like having 2 Greatest Glory accessories in your kit, just in that one inscription. That's wild. And then we've got the rare inscription, Sharp Arrows. The wielder's troop gains a 4% boost in ranged normal damage dealt. Great. Still, it's only 40% as good as Astute. 40% that legendary inscription, but it's still very, very nice. Almost as good as Greatest Glory itself. This is probably the second best rare inscription in V formation, to be honest with you. Then we've got all the vanilla stats again. Again, not to be shrugged off. If you've got double inscriptions with those on, definitely worth having. It's always a nice bonus to stats. Can't deny that, can we? And again, these are all similar. 1% boost, 1% takes 1% less damage. Nice. The wielder's troop deals 2% more normal damage of all types. That's very good. Smite. So, yeah, it's half as good as Sharp Arrows, but for a normal inscription, that's very nice. I mean, you could potentially have a double inscription, smite plus something else, and you're pretty much as good as that rare inscription there, really. Enduring, the wielder's troop deals 3% more counter damage of all types. That's high. That's a bit higher than this one here. So if you do get enduring, definitely worth having over that other one. Resistant. And then Artisan, the wielder's troop deals 3% more skill damage, not important. We have Rapacious, deals 1.5% extra damage. That's a little bit better than, that's 0.5% more damage than Elite, so that's very good. And then Guardians, the wielder's troop takes 2% less normal damage of all types. That's just, yeah, it's just going to take you 2% less damage. I do like that. 2% is quite high. Counterer, the wielder's troop takes 3% less counter damage of all types. Again, similar to the other one, but you're just taking the damage less. The wielder's troop, again, I'd compare that to taking 1.5 less normal damage, but then obviously it won't affect your smite. Deflector's not really important, takes 3% less skill damage of all types. Again, you're not getting attacked, or at least you shouldn't be. That's not even much different to that Tempered, the rare inscription. Watchman, the wielder's troop takes 1.5% less damage. That's very, very good. And I love this one, Line Shot. While in V formation, the wielder's troop deals 5% more range normal damage. And obviously, while not in V formation, but you are going to be. So yeah, I have got Line Shot as well on my Guardian Armada's third set. But yeah, let's just look at this Greatest Glory here. It does 5% more normal damage of all types. It's a really good accessory, actually, for a ranged march with your smite commanders. As you can see, I've got Line Shot here on Guardian Armada. And my stats actually aren't bad. They're all siege stats. I could re-roll that 1.7, even the 2%, but to be honest, it's probably not worth it. It's good enough. But yeah, that's on my third set at the moment now. That's how good my other sets are, to be honest. So guys, that was the last inscription. I hope you found this video useful. Obviously, feel free to get in touch with me if you want to ask anything about inscriptions, armaments, anything, guys. I will try and get back to you as soon as possible. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. This was me, Mr. Siege, and bye-bye.